Boarding 2 RAF Britannias at Whenuapai are 150 New Zealand soldiers bound for London. It's the beginning of a United Kingdom New Zealand military exchange program named Exercise Powderhorn. Already arrived in New Zealand is the English regiment. They're the Loyals from North Lancashire. The two contingents are to spend a month in each other's country. On their arrival in Wellington, the Loyals are inspected at Government House by Sir Bernard Ferguson. The Loyal Regiment's 220-year history includes participation in the American War of Independence. Headquarters of the 6th Field Regiment of the Royal Artillery are hosts to their New Zealand counterparts soon after they arrive in Britain. This is the first opportunity the New Zealanders have had to look over the latest in heavy artillery. Among the new defense equipment is an American-designed and built mobile cannon, a 175mm self-propelled howitzer. Looking not unlike a tank, it's the first one in the British Isles. On the nearby range on Salisbury Plain, the men are given instructions on smaller pack howitzers, modern replacements for the old 25-pounders. New Zealand recently acquired some of these weapons, and here the men brush up on their firing drill. Meanwhile, at Bovington, there's a demonstration of chieftain tanks. The men of the Royal New Zealand Armoured Corps find a good sport in riding a chieftain tank over the Bovington testing grounds. A shot well worthwhile taking home is that of a Centurion tank coming over a knife edge. For the visitors is a short-range guided missile on a mobile carrier. But the time's not all spent in learning, and a stay in Old England wouldn't be complete without seeing some of its history. For the men of the Armoured Corps, there's a visit to Longleat, the ancestral home of the Marquis of Bath. Nearly 400 years old, Longleat is an impressive relic of the wealth and power that was once the British aristocracy. A palace of the past, Longleat's splendour will long be remembered by the Kiwis. Meanwhile, back in the jungle, that is the jungle of New Zealand's west coast, the soldiers of the small Republic of Blackland are awaiting a dawn attack from nearby Whitelands invaders. This is Exercise Teroparaha, and the target is a crossroads in the bush. The Loyals and the New Zealand troops are divided into Blacklanders and Whitelanders, and it's a full-scale mock operation. After the air attack, the ground forces move in. The object of the exercise is to train the visiting Loyals in jungle fighting techniques. A group of VIPs watch the skirmish near the centre of the target area. Among the observers are 2 MPs, Mr. Fox, and Westland's member, Mr. Blanchfield. The battle's over, and it's a victory to the invaders. Prisoners are taken and searched, and the casualties are carried up. After the mopping up operations, the spectators talk to the soldiers about the guerrilla fighting conditions. Among the VIPs is Colonel Collins, the Loyals' regimental commander. Congratulations are given to all by the Chief of the New Zealand General Staff, Major General Thornton, for the fine performances put up under adverse weather and in rough terrain. Later, there's a supply drop of 13,000 pounds of rations to the men in the field. The first fine day in the exercise gives the men a chance to relax and dry out. But exercise to Roparaha is not yet over, as the Whitelanders have still to march back to Canterbury the way they came, through the passes in the Southern Alps. Back in London, all groups of the New Zealand contingent have combined at Chelsea Barracks for a visit from the New Zealand High Commissioner, Sir Thomas MacDonald. Drawing complimentary comments wherever they go, the New Zealanders are later to participate in the traditional guard duty at Buckingham Palace, St James's Palace, the Tower of London and the Bank of England. Remembrance Day, November the 11th, and the memorial procession is mounting at the barracks. The New Zealanders are among the spectators as the many units in their traditional finery set out on the grounds. At Hyde Park Corner, some of the Kiwis take part in an artillery memorial service. Buckingham Palace, and it's the first day the New Zealanders will guard the royal and national institutions. The band of the Welsh Guards escorts the New Zealanders to the palace from Chelsea Barracks, and the changing of the guard ceremony begins. The New Zealanders are relieving the Irish Guards, whose mascot Sean watches the newcomers with lazy acceptance. After presenting arms, a section of the new guard are marched off to do guard duty at nearby St James's Palace. Each new guardsman is formally instructed in his duties. As the ceremonial is in progress, the colours of the guard companies are paraded, while the two guard commanders preside at the changeover. Every second day for the next 10 days, the New Zealanders will mount guard, and for the next 24 hours, they'll be responsible for the security of the two palaces. Breaking tradition, the Queen appears one afternoon as the New Zealanders are about to go on duty. The ceremony is frozen in mid-stride as the Queen meets several of the men. Speaking to the commanding officer of the contingent, Major Cox, Her Majesty expressed the hope that New Zealand troops will be able to repeat their visit. On the home front, the Loyals are at Arthur's Pass to begin a 5-day course in mountaincraft. Despite official suggestions, the men soon find their own way of crossing mountain rivers. It's a long trek to the heights above Temple Basin, where 14 experienced mountain instructors begin the course with a lesson in rock climbing. Watching is the British Chief of the Northern Command, Lieutenant General Sir Charles Richardson, in centre. Handling a casualty in dangerous snowfields can be a tricky operation, and after instruction, the troops try their hand at transporting an injured climber. Essential for survival under conditions such as these is the ability to build a good snow cave. Knowledge of how to break a fall on a steep slope is a necessary asset. But as usual, it's easier to get down than up. The instructors show how, if 3 out of 4 men lose their footing, the 4th must be prepared to take the strain. There are many new techniques to learn, including a novel way of riding the snowdrifts. From springtime in the Alps, it's back to an English autumn as the Kiwis take over guard at the Tower of London. It's not only tradition that's guarded here, but also the Tower's inmates. No longer imprisoned conspirators awaiting execution, but still the priceless crown jewels. Ceremonial's over, the old guard marches off. And the new guard marches on. But official duties don't take up all of their time, and the troops are anxious to see as much of this ancient metropolis as they can in their month-long stay. On the banks of Old Father Thames, outside the Tower, the men examine the great-great-grandfathers of their own defence weapons. And there had to be a beefeater somewhere around. Many places and names have long been familiar. They say one of the best views of the city is to be had from a more recent addition to the skyline, New Zealand House. But that depends on the day. It may be traditional, but London smog doesn't help a fellow in picking out the landmarks. Trafalgar Square has its own variety of native Englishmen who provide a special welcoming committee for the Kiwis. They say birds of a feather flock together, but this is ridiculous. Back at Christchurch, it's the Loyals' final parade. Exercise to Roperaha complete, they've finished in the mountains and the bush, and they'll soon be returning home. Their New Zealand colleagues of the past month follow behind as the Mayor of Christchurch takes the salute. At Buckingham Palace, it's the day of the New Zealanders' last guard, and Sean leads the Irish Guards in to relieve the Kiwis for the last time. The band and troops exit with a slow march, and exercise Powderhorn comes to a close. It's been a highly successful exchange operation, with both sides learning much from each other and about each other. And it'll be a proud father who will one day be able to tell his children that he once guarded the Queen, the crown jewels, and all the gold in the Bank of England.